Everyone, no mai haere mai ki tēnei hui, or Prosperous Napier. Welcome to our first Prosperous Napier meeting of the term, March 23rd. I'd just like to open first with apologies. So we have Deputy Mayor Brosnan as the only apology. Can I have someone to move that? Thank you. Councillor Mawson, Councillor Brown second, and all those in favour? Aye. Thank you, that's carried. Right, does anyone have any conflicts of interest with our agenda item today? No? Nice and easy. Next, I'd like to welcome Mr. Gerald Grocott to speak with us this morning. Mr. Grocott wishes to present to us around Napier Airport's current and future operations. So if you'd like to join us at the table there, please, Gerald. Thank you, Gerald. So, thank you so much for being here with us this morning. I know that you've been advised that you have 10 minutes to share your presentation with us. We do have it timed, but we're fairly loose around it. So hopefully within that time frame you'll be able to finish sharing your thoughts with us, and then we'll open up for questions from councillors if there are any for you. So feel free to go ahead when you're ready.
Good morning, everybody. Madam Chair, this is not my world, so my protocol is probably not correct, but anyway. I'd like to think that what I'd written in an email to you, Sally, might have been distributed, because what I'd sooner do is just answer questions, because this is quite an emotive and vexing issue, the future of Napier Airport. I'm a little bit concerned that on the operational side, things are not pushing ahead as they should, and that, as a pilot, concerns me. It's all very well having an airport, but if you're going to close or shorten runways in order to put in things like solar farms so that Air New Zealand can't operate or could not operate on the cross runway, it seems to me incorrect. I'm happy enough to support a solar farm so long as the infrastructure of the airport is not destroyed. ABB put a building some years ago there. A runway was closed to put that in. I'm not necessarily, I had a hangar there, we were booted out. ABB could have, in effect, gone anywhere or somewhere else. It just aggravates me when airport infrastructure is being closed or shortened for commercial development. I'm not against commercial development, but just don't kill the airport. That's really all I've got to say.
Thank you, Gerald. Now, I haven't distributed what you sent through to me, but I will make sure that it is done. I'll have it sent to Carolyn so that she can distribute it to Council after this. But I think that you've summarised very succinctly and clearly your thoughts and feelings that are also reflected in the email as well. So I'll just open it up to councillors to see if anyone had any further questions for Mr. Grocott around his concerns with the airport. Thank you, Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Gerald. Have you raised your concerns with the board of the airport governance body?
With the board, not. I've talked with Rob Stratford here, and in the short conversations we've had, we're not in disagreement, perhaps only about the time frame, that's all. There are small hangars and things out at the airport now for small aircraft, which, because of the nature of the wet taxiways, are unusable a lot of the time. Now, operationally, that's not acceptable. And Sean Colgan has a very expensive new Cessna, which he wants to build a hangar for. There's no lead as to whether he can build a hangar or have a hangar built by the airport company or have access even to a runway on a reliable basis. That's not acceptable. We need an operational airport. So I've got no gripe with Rob. We get along well. I just would like to see things happen, or at least have a plan.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions for Mr. Grocott?
One other concern I have is the most recent, I don't want to get personal, but the most recent appointment of the Hawke's Bay Airport Limited Board is supposedly an aviator, I've been told. He's not an operational aviator. He may be a good admin man, good governance, good whatever, but it's an operational centre, the airport, and this point needs to be remembered, I think. I've heard the solar farm makes sustainability, well, good. Shut the whole airport down, make it into a solar farm and put a picture of an aeroplane out there. I mean, when you want to go on a Friday afternoon to Auckland for the weekend, you want your flight to arrive and you want it to depart. And I don't care how many solar panels you've got. If the airport's not operational, it's not happening. That's not right.
Councillor Simpson.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. Just a point of clarification. When you talk about operational, what you're talking about is small and light aircraft as opposed to the Air New Zealand style commercial aircraft. Is that what you're referring to?
No. The cross runway, as it exists now, is partly grass. So it's a pity you haven't got my brief. Partly grass, partly seal. We used to land Fokker Friendships on it when I was flying for NAC. It's operationally fine. Air New Zealand can't use it at the moment because it's not sealed. It could be sealed. It should be sealed. And so when your flight that you want to go on your Friday afternoon to Auckland for your concert in Auckland doesn't arrive, it's because in westerly conditions, that runway is not operational for Air New Zealand. It could be, it should be.
Just a follow-up question through you, Madam Chair. How often does that west, what's it called, the west
Or
runway?
just call it the westerly runway, yeah.
How often is it actually used currently?
Do you live in Hawke's Bay?
Yes,
Ever heard of the westerly wind?
I experience it regularly.
There we are. You've got your answer.
No, that's not the answer. The question I asked was how often is it currently used?
Well, they can't use it at the moment because it's partly sealed and partly grass, and under the Air New Zealand regime, their aeroplanes can't use it. But if it was fully sealed, they could use it. If it was 1,200 metres of sealed runway, they could use it. Even better if it had lights, but let's, not push the boat too far. I mean, an airport is supposed to be a reliable operational centre. And if you, under the current plan, shorten that runway to 600 metres, and we had Gabriel, you have the railway out, you have the roads out, and in a westerly wind, you couldn't even land a Hercules at that airport. That's, in my view, bad planning.
Mayor Wise.
Thank you, through the chair. And I guess just a follow-on question from Councillor Simpson, and understanding what you're saying about how that particular runway cannot be used, but are you aware of a number of flights having to be turned around and not land because they haven't been able to use that runway? I guess, yeah, what we're trying to gain an understanding of is if it is actually having a significant impact on the operations of Air New Zealand currently. Are we regularly turning away flights from landing because of that runway not being usable?
I just know from, I have no statistic on that figure. I asked Air New Zealand, they were very guarded about it, but it is known that in westerly conditions, it makes a crosswind on the main runway. The aeroplanes don't land, they shoot back to Auckland or back to Wellington or wherever. It's a major inconvenience, and the irony is that when the westerly wind blows in the North Island, the weather here is great. It's great for aviation. It's a good alternate airport. And if it had a westerly runway, it'd be a brilliant airport.
Councillor McGrath.
Just through the chair, do many other airports have cross runways suitable to land Air New Zealand flights?
No, not necessarily, not when you mention it like that, but there are not many airports I know where they don't have a runway into the prevailing wind. I mean, you look at Wellington, you don't need a cross runway there. It's either screaming from the north or screaming from the south, isn't it?
Councillor Bogue.
Thank you, Mr. Grocott, for your presentation. I assume you're an aviator or a pilot, or you have had personal experience with navigating these runways. But I just wanted to know, what would you like us to do about your concern?
Thank you. Yeah, my first job was in 1972 as a flight instructor at Bridge Bar, so I've been around a while. What I would like to see in conjunction with Rob is a plan where we have decent taxiways to give access to the current runway, and I'm just totally against a solar farm if it means shortening the cross runway. The runway exists, it could be made into a proper, nice, good, usable runway, and it should, in my opinion. So what I'd like to see is a proper plan where the operational side of the airfield is more advanced than it seems to be at the moment.
Thank you, Mr. Grocott. Any final questions from council? No, I'd just like to once again thank you, Gerald, for coming this morning and sharing. I think when we spoke on the phone, I mentioned, it's a pretty brave thing to come and do, speak in this sort of environment. As you said, it's not your usual thing, so thank you. But just so that you're aware, so our job in regards to HBL is to monitor the performance of the organisation, and I think it's fantastic that Rob's here today to again hear your concerns. I would expect that they come and present to us periodically, and the next time that they're here, I'm sure that they'll provide any clarification or context in regards to some of the remarks that you've made today. So I can assure you you've been heard, and thank you again for your time.
All right, and thank you for the opportunity.
All right, well, we'll get back into our agenda. So next up, do we have any announcements by the Mayor? Announcements by the Chairperson? Yes, I would like to acknowledge one of the councillors today, Councillor Taylor. I understand it's a fairly significant birthday. Graham's been on this planet now for 70 years, so congratulations, Graham, and happy birthday from all of us.
Thank you. I don't feel a day over 69.
Do we have any announcements from management this morning? No. Thank you. And does anyone have any minor matters they'd like to raise that aren't on the agenda? No. Great. We have no minutes to confirm today, so we'll get into our one and only agenda item for this morning, to receive the quarterly report for the 6 months ended 31st of December. We have our Chief Financial Officer, Caroline Thompson, to present the paper.
Thank you and good morning, and many happy returns. So this report is the financial report for the 6 months ended 31st of December 2022. Our year-to-date operating surplus is 7.6 million, favourable to the budgeted deficit of 3.6 million. The favourable variances for financial contributions and subsidies and grants revenue and the depreciation and labour expenditure have more than offset the unfavourable variance compared to budget for revenue received from the sale of parkland sections. So just a note on the parklands sections, 29 sections have been developed year to date. 10 sections have been sold against a target of 61 for the full year. The average price for the 10 sections sold in stage 8 was 415,000, excluding GST, versus our budgeted figure of 364,000. The remaining unsold sections in stage 8 are, we plan to put them to tender in May. The Parklands development has experienced delays in development over the past 12 to 18 months, and that's been due to COVID and supply chain issues relating to sourcing street lights. Just a note on the depreciation year to date. So due to the annual report not being adopted until February 2023, has meant that the depreciation costs for the 6 months ended December are based on estimates. So this will be adjusted in the next quarter ended 31st March. Also to note, officers have engaged valuers to carry out revaluations of our three waters above and below ground assets and condition assessments, as recommended by our auditors in our year-end audit report. However, the cyclone may have impacted the ability for some of these assets to be valued and even their actual value. So officers are working with the valuers to ensure that we work through any issues early so that we can meet our year-end timeframe. But also just noting that we are awaiting some further information coming out from DIA on potential extensions to adoption deadlines for annual plans, annual reports and long-term plans. But at this stage we're continuing to work, carry out our work and aiming to adopt our annual report as per our legislated time frame of 31st October. The information included in this report was prepared before Cyclone Gabriel, and so therefore it does not take into account any of the financial impacts from the cyclone, and these will be reported in the next quarter ended 31st of March. But before then there will be a verbal update to the Audit and Risk Committee coming up on March the 31st on our insurance and our costs, that, the information that we have to hand at this point in time. So I'm happy to take any questions.
And thank you, Caroline. And before you do, I just wanted to note the fact that our Eagle Eye Councillor Bogue pointed out a couple of spelling mistakes and a report that needed updating. It had been actually replaced with another report. So thank you for that, Councillor Bogue, and those will be updated in the final version as well. So yeah, we'll open for questions. Councillor Bogue.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. One of the questions I asked that I got a response, which I felt others might be interested in, was in relation to the retirement and rental housing, our 377 flats. How are we proceeding with meeting our healthy home requirements? And I got an excellent answer, but I thought others might like to hear it also. Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you, and through the chair. So I'll just cover off the bathrooms, the kitchen range hoods and the draft stopping that work has been undertaken for the Healthy Homes compliance. So for the bathroom, ventilation is complete in 9 out of 12 of the villages, and we are on track to have the other 2 fully completed in the next 2 months, well before the end of our financial year, 30th June. The kitchen range hoods, the majority of those are complete and on track to also be fully completed by end of financial year. And the draft stopping, although we're past the deadline for completion, all work will be complete by the end of the financial year for that also.
Thank you.
Councillor Taylor.
Through you, Madam Chair. Caroline, there's a bit of damage going on globally in the banking industry at the moment. Is there any consideration being given to any modification to our investment policies or at the present time? I'm looking at what we've got on term deposit and what periods of time. Is there consideration being given currently to that?
So currently, and given the cyclone conditions and that, we've been keeping our investments fairly short term, so we've got that liquidity should we need it for the costs associated with remediating any of our assets prior to us receiving the insurance proceeds. We are also working on an investment policy which will come to you in the next few months, but at the stage everything is quite uncertain, so we're just keeping things short term as far as investments go.
Thank you.
Any further questions? If not, we'll visit the recommendation, which is to receive the quarterly report for the 6 months ended 31st of December 2022. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Mawson, and seconded by Councillor Bogue. Would you like to speak to the motion? No. Councillor Bogue, would you like to speak to the motion? Any other speakers? No, all right, then I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. That was short and sweet, but we will we'll finish with our closing karakia. If we could all please stand. Ki tau te rangi Māori, ki runga i ngā iwi katoa o Ahuriri. Kia piki te ora, te kaha me te māramatanga i ngā wā katoa. Ki hei, mauri ora.